Good afternoon and welcome to the Century of Subsidies birthday party. My name is Rick Schwark and I'm CEO of Absolute Energy, a 115 million gallon per year ethanol plant located in St. Ansgar, Iowa. I'm also proud to serve as president of the Iowa Renewable Fuels Association. Absolute Energy is also a member of the American Coalition for Ethanol. I want to thank ACE and IRFA for organizing this event. I also want to thank Platinum Ethanol, a 100 million gallon plant in Arthur, Iowa, for providing the spectacular Charm City Cakes creation you see before you. And we're all going to get to sample that here in a little bit, along with some ice cream. So why are we here today? Let me first begin with a quote. The American people benefit most when the free market and consumer choice determine our nation's energy policy. So we oppose government mandates and costly taxpayer subsidies that try to dictate energy choices. The irony of that quote is that it was a quote made by the president of the American Fuel and Petrochemical Manufacturers in an attempt to argue that if we eliminate the IRFA and any tax credits for renewable fuels, then we would be left with a free market where consumer choice determines our nation's energy policy. Many people believe that today, maybe even some of you here in this room. I say the quote is ironic because the opposite is true. Ethanol subsidy, which was actually given to oil companies when they blended ethanol, ended in 2011. The costly taxpayer subsidies continue to go to oil companies. In fact, even with the IRFA in place, the energy policy playing field for transportation fuels remains dramatically tilted in favor of big oil. And here's my evidence. Today, as this cake so artfully illustrates, we are celebrating the 100th birthday of continuous, permanent, oil industry-specific tax subsidies. That's right. Since the inception of the federal tax code in 1913, oil companies have been able to deduct things like intangible drilling and development costs. The cake tells the story. 2013 marks a century of subsidies for big oil. You might say, so what? The subsidy only adds up to a few $1 billion per year. So how is that such a big advantage? Well, that's the oldest, but not the only oil tax subsidy. There are several other oil tax subsidies and tax preferences that have become permanent law over the past century, which are listed here on this chart. There are other federal supports for oil. You can see the federal support chart, which include federal loan guarantees for oil and gas and only oil and gas pipelines. There's the Master Limited Partnership business structure available only to fossil fuel companies, including petroleum. There's the U.S. Navy's constant protection of the oil shipping lanes in the Persian Gulf. And there's the virtual distribution monopoly that the oil industry has enjoyed for most of the past century and continues to enjoy today. And finally, there's the federal petroleum mandate that the oil industry has enjoyed for roughly the past 40 years. That's right. The real mandate is a federal petroleum mandate, which dictates that every gallon of gasoline of fuel sold in America today to regular passenger vehicles must contain at least 85% petroleum. A federal petroleum mandate which is backed up by a $25,000 per day fine for anyone who might violate it in their desire to exercise fuel choice for lower cost, cleaner, homegrown fuels. Now let me be clear, we're not here to argue that every big oil subsidy should be eliminated, or even to say that each and every one is bad policy. But we're here to remind folks that big oil receives numerous tax subsidies, and some have been here for 100 years, since 1913. And any discussion of a free market, or a level energy playing field, or consumer fuel choice, or government mandates and costly taxpayer subsidies should keep the facts on this chart in mind. Policies such as the Renewable Fuel Standard don't discourage competition. To the contrary, the IRFA is one of the only laws on the books that promotes competition in energy markets. The RFS encourages consumer fuel choice. The RFS encourages lower cost fuel options for American families. And the RFS helps us crack the big oil monopoly that has dictated our fuel choice for the past century. In the words of the great free market capitalist Milton Friedman, the first and most urgent necessity in the area of government policy is the elimination of those measures which directly support monopoly. Big oil has monopoly, folks, and the RFS is the one measure that is helping to break through that monopoly today. So if you're in favor of greater competition in the fuel marketplace and against monopolies, you should join us in urging Congress to protect the RFS in 2013 and beyond.